Okay, you have two questions. There's a lot of information on both, but just as in principle, on principle. We have mandated programs like the sheriffs and the deputies, the courts, paving the county roads and so on. Those we have to keep, those we have to maintain. That is the duty of the county. But we have other programs, for example, human resources, that could be outsourced. We have parks that could be outsourced. And those those are not required by the state. And so my opinion is that we should cut those. If we do that, we would not have a need for tax increases. I think the homeowners, the property owners are too overburdened. We have half of the people who own a house in El Paso are having difficulty paying their mortgage. That's a reality. And so to add to their tax burden is not what we need to do. The county has received additional tax revenue since I can remember, and we have to stop that trend. Those things that you described are the mandated functions, like the birth certificates when you go to the district clerk, or you need a document from the district clerk or the county clerk, or you need someone to respond to a problem in the sheriff's department. Those are mandated functions. The only way you're going to sustain that without added tax increases is by eliminating the rest, those things that are non-mandated.
Mrs. Escobar, do not be asked two questions. We have 1 minute to respond.
Hi, I'm apologizing. My question is good to you, Ms. Veronica Escobar. Would you be willing to consider funding for a project Arriba, a nonprofit organization who helps individuals acquire certifications and associates and bachelor's degrees to obtain employment and to earn higher living wages?
My answer is no. I have been a strong advocate for Project Arriba. We have funded Project Arriba in the past. I attended an accountability session where they asked candidates for county judge that question, and my answer was no at that time. As much as I believe that program makes a difference, the county is in the midst of a huge financial crisis, and we simply cannot afford to do it right now. I'll tell you though, just to piggyback on a question that one of your colleagues asked about funding mandated and non-mandated, we also can't afford not to fund certain programs, like our parks and like added infrastructure, and like supporting county employees. Those are important things to government. If things were better, would I be interested in Project Arriba? Yes, but they're not, unfortunately.
Due to the economic downfall and the cuts that the county has made in the past, citizens are facing a decrease in services. If elected, will you implement a county-wide tax having any effect in everyday lives of citizens?
Would I implement a tax? Is that your question? Yes, I supported a tax increase in the last budget. And it has been the subject of a lot of conversation over these forums and debates. But I stand by my decision. I believe it was the right thing to do. I know that for many people, a tax increase is sort of the kiss of death for candidates. But there comes a time, and I'm speaking directly to these young people, where you have to make the right decision for the future, despite the impact it may have on your own personal ambitions. And so that was the choice that I decided to make. Invest in my community so as not to further a crisis, despite the impact it would have on my candidacy. I think it's important to have leaders in office who are willing to take those risks and make those investments, and that's the kind of county judge that you would have if you elect me.
Thank you. Now we'll have the 3 questions from the audience. Please come forward to ask their candidates.
My name is John C. Warren. I am a teacher, but I do have a personal question to ask both of you. I have a child who is a special needs child who is receiving services through MHMR and through the county. I have insurance, and we have been providing as much as we can, but the county and the mental health resources all go through MHMR as the gatekeeper. Now, recently, you went through another series of cuts to mental health, and Sun City was closed. And yeah, the question is, what do you anticipate to be the funding levels for MHMR and mental health in the future? And how can we help those people that have been displaced in the process of losing county funding?
What you're referring to is the local option clinic that we no longer funded. There's a separate arm of emergency room diversion money that we also didn't fund, but because MHMR was receiving $1.4 million, and so we thought we could pull our $370 million because they were going to be okay with the 1.4. Now with the local option clinic, what we're doing differently is we're trying to move those patients over to UMC, University Medical Center, so that you can make contact with UMC, and they will, for non-funded patients, they will try to enroll you in their healthcare options program. But you're saying you have a funded, it's a funded patient. So what they're doing is they're working with the local clinics to find a home for each one of these patients, so that they're seen by a physician and not a nurse practitioner, and they have a home to regularly go back to find their pharmaceuticals and get their prescriptions. We hope that it will be better. We need to revisit it and monitor it very closely. What we did not want to do was leave people out in the cold. We wanted an alternative that we hoped would work.
The problem, of course, is that there's going to be a lot of people out in the cold. Right now, for example, all the programs that have foster kids, when they age out, there's nowhere for them to go. A lot of them are living in city parks in the downtown. You've got a lot of needs in this community that are going to go unmet. With anticipated cuts at the state level, we're going to be faced with even more challenges. It's a good thing that this particular case, there was an insurance. There are a lot of people that do not have insurance. What we're going to have to do is rethink how we're looking at the community as a whole. I spoke yesterday to someone, a constable, talking about the truancies in the high schools. Kids are not coming to school. They don't want to come to school. Parents are part of the problem. The disintegration of the family in El Paso. All of those things require us to come up with new ways of approaching it, not simply looking at it programmatically in terms of funding from the state.
For you, Commissioner Escobar, you said that in this case you felt like a tax increase was something that you just had to do. Is there ever a point that you would think that it's not the right thing to do to raise revenues?
Absolutely. In fact, as we started seeing the economic impact of the downturn in the economy, 3 years ago we started making cuts as an alternative to tax increases. We cut a total in the last 3 years, a total of $25 million from the budget. Over the last 4 years that I've been your county commissioner, your tax rate has decreased. And so your tax rate, even with the tax increase, is still lower this year than it was in 2006 when I ran for county commissioner. I think there comes a point where our auditor, for example, told us if you don't increase taxes, you will have catastrophe in 2010. And you will have to raise taxes twice as much and make cuts twice as deep. And so you have to weigh those things as a decision maker and say, in the long run, am I hurting my community by continuing to depend on cuts alone? The growth that we had in our government was injustice. We made cuts everywhere. We were essentially, our backs were against the wall this year.
The problem, of course, is that you can't be having that argument and then at the same time giving $1 million in extra benefits to deputies. For example, differential pay. More normally, when you work for 40 hours a week, when you work over 40 hours, you get time and a half. Not our deputies. Our deputies, if they work outside of their shift, they get time and a half. Things like that is what many people refer to as the fat in government. Do we need deputies? Of course we do. Do we need to pay them well? Of course we do. But do we need to give them all those extra benefits? No. The only reason we would do that is why? Because we want their favor come election time. You cannot have it both ways. If you're going to keep increasing tax revenue for the county, you need to make those hard choices, and you can't have it both ways. Thank you.
As somebody who spent a lot of time asking some difficult questions to candidates and elected officials. I just want to say, you guys did an excellent job today asking the questions. I hope all of you guys become teachers, because if any of you guys get in my line of work, I'm not going to be happy about it. And so my last question is really for them. If you guys would talk about the importance of civic engagement for young people.
Civics education is what I think, in my opinion, is one of the failings of our public school systems. There are many people, students, young people, who do not understand they're part of something. Not only a part of something in terms of their schools, but a part of something in terms of their nation, as Americans, as citizens, of the obligations and duties that they have as Americans and citizens. I had a piece today that I unfortunately did not have time to present, but it's the definition of the Pledge of Allegiance. It was done by Red Skelton about mid-century, many years ago. And one of the things that struck me, and I have it and I will present it at another occasion, is that he goes and defines every single word in that pledge. We said the pledge today, and most of us just said it, it's a rote memory, and do not understand what that means. Civic education is fundamental. It is important. And in the government classes and in every class, it should be a fundamental part of our curriculum. Because only when you realize you're part of the greater body politic and you have those obligations can you truly be an American citizen.
That's a great question, Ms. Rebecca, and so I'm going to speak directly to the students. You have to ask yourself at some point in time as you are moving into young adulthood, what kind of community do you want to live in? What kind of state do you want to live in? What kind of nation do you want to live in? And then it's up to you to make an impact through volunteer work, through the kind of employment you have, but also by something incredibly simple, and that's voting. You know, when I ran for commissioner, it was not the first time that I was involved in a political campaign. I had volunteered for friends and people that I admired, and I would knock on doors and talk to voters. But I never knocked on as many doors as I did when I was running my own campaign. And what I realized was the vast majority of voters I spoke to were 50 and older. So what does that mean when you're a candidate? It means you target your platform to those voters. What's important to that generation? What's important to that demographic? Who gets left out? You all do, because you don't exercise your right to vote. I encourage you to do it, get involved. This is a great first step. Thank you.
Now you each have a 1-minute closing statement.
Thank you again. I think part of what is critical for you all to know about this race, and actually I want to take a second just to thank Mr. Perez for being a participant in the democratic process. It's hard to be a candidate. It takes a lot of time away from your family and the things that you want to do. But he's doing it, and I think all candidates are doing it because they want to give you options. They want you to learn about the different positions that people hold so that your families can make the right choice based on their own principles and values. I'm here to ask for your vote because my principles and values politically are about planning for a vibrant future for my community. I will work very hard for you. I have a long record of achievement and ambition for my community. I would love to be your county judge, but I need your vote in order to get there. Thank you.
I want to echo the sentiments of Commissioner Escobar. You know, when we debate, we have a love fest. Of course, when we talk policy, we beat each other up. And that's a good thing. We do it in a good way because she made the point. We are showing you that there are two ways of looking at the world, at least in this particular race, and a whole set of issues that arise from looking at the world in a different way. And that gives you an option. When you go to that booth, you need to vote. Do I need to vote for this person or that person based on the policies, not the individual, whatever nonsense might be going on in negative campaign. So it is important that you go out there and you be an informed voter. It is not enough to simply talk and go on out about your lives. You have to engage the system. I don't have all the answers, but I can tell you that every morning when I get up, I study, I read, I try to find the best approaches, given my philosophical commitments. And it is very important that you always, every day of your life, have the same commitment. You get up and you do the best you can. Thank you very much.